And Brother Branham was a wonderful prophet, but he was not a photographer. And my mother followed his example in all things. So all pictures that either one of them took are out of focus. But you can get the impression of what they wanted you to see. Okay, this, to start with, this is the house that's on 8th Street in Jeffersonville, and this is where my parents lived when I was born. They were married in 1941 and moved in here. Actually, it's a two-people house. They just lived in the front 2 rooms. Somebody else lived in the back. And I was born in 1946. But before I was born, in March of that year, my dad had come home from work one afternoon. He was still working for the electric company in Indiana, patrolling the lines. Some days he did walk as much as 30 miles looking for broken insulators. He came home and there was company sitting on the porch, he went to walk around the side of that building, and there was a whirlwind that came out of that tall tree there that's to the right of the porch and slammed him against the side of the building. My mother came running over and said, "What's the matter?" And he says, "I have to find out what all of this is about. I'm going to my cave, and I'm not going to come home till I know what's happening." And when he went to the cave, that's when the angel came, gave him his commission, told him he would be given 2 signs. And he asked at that time, "Can I wait till this baby is born?" My mother was pregnant at the time with me. And when I was 2 weeks old, Dad left for his first major campaign, which was to St. Louis. And that's where we lived. This little house is where we lived until I was 2 years old. In 1947, when I was 1 year old, Brother Jack Moore came to visit. And he was a contractor down in Louisiana. He traveled quite a bit in the meetings that Dad was having, very large campaigns, thousands of people attending. And so when they were in a campaign in Canada, he took up an offering and bought a house for us, because he couldn't imagine Brother Branham living in this house. You have to understand there was no indoor plumbing in this house, and neither one of my parents had ever had, up to this point, indoor plumbing. So Brother Moore took up an offering, and they built us a house up on Ewing Lane. Now this picture was taken in the 70s. I did not have a slide of an early picture of this house. But on the main floor, when it was built, on the main floor there was about 1,200 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. What did I do? With a full basement. And can you imagine how they felt moving into this house when they had never even had indoor plumbing before? They were so awestruck that Mother wouldn't even cook in the kitchen for a year. Other slides here. Now this is an earlier picture of the house. This is not a supernatural photo, and I'm not trying to make it out to be, but it's the only thing that I could find that showed the driveway, the entrance to the driveway. The long, slanted rocks there. I found another one. This is some of my cousins, my little sister here in the front, and then some of my cousins. You can see what the driveway, the entrance to the driveway looked like. Brother Branham talked about this a lot on tape, how that when they had the vision in 57, when the stones were torn down, that was the time to move west. And the part that they tore off was right up to the part where the lamp was on there. So this slanted part down there on the other pillar. That's what the city came through and tore down. So that was the entrance to our driveway. Let's see if I have another one. Okay, this is another picture of the front of our house. Dad also talked about the green shutters with the little white crosses. This is my mom and dad, and one of the stories that Dad used to bring home, but I'd like to orient you a little bit here to the front of the house. The 2 windows that are behind there on the porch, there's a door and 2 windows right there in the back, and that area was my dad's den room. And you would walk across the porch, and the door to the left went into the kitchen. So as you can tell, my dad basically knew whatever was going on out on the porch. We'd wake up some mornings, people would be sleeping on the porch, sleeping on the steps, sleeping in their cars in the driveway, and sleeping on those gates. It was slanted just right for sleeping. The gates coming in, they'd put their pillow there, and they would be waiting for whoever came out of the door first. And to ask to see Brother Branham. And usually I was the first one out of the door to go to school, stepping over people, excuse me, you know, to go get on the school bus. And so many times my friends would say, Rebecca, you have the strangest friends. And I just tell them, you know, I know y'all are just jealous. Nobody cares enough about you to sleep on your doorstep just waiting for you to come out in the morning. And while I'm on this slide, I wanted you to take note of that. There's a tall shrub that is at the left end of the porch, the very left end of the porch there, right as even with the kitchen door. Oh yeah, this is just another shot of Dad with one of the strays he used to bring home. We had quite a zoo of animals. Now, Dad liked to clown. Many of you, have a hard time believing this, but he was. He did like to clown, and this he called his cowboy pose, bow-legged cowboy pose. And as you can tell in the other picture, here, just a second, I'll back up. My mother, she dressed a little more normally, but this was Dad's favorite clothes. And he would come in from hunting like this, and he'd tell Mother, he'd say, now, Mommy, don't wash these. In another couple of weeks, they'll smell just right. Just stand them up over there in the corner. Now, this was his dress-up cowboy outfit. This is actually a picture taken down at the old tabernacle, standing there. And in this picture, Dad had his hairpiece on. And many of you may not know, my dad lost his hair when he was very young, and he lost it very quickly. There was somebody put acid on his head, and he lost his hair very quickly. It left his scalp very, very tender, and he was prone to his throat closing up. He could not be in a draft, he could not be in air conditioning, and his throat would close up, and in his position, you can imagine what a disaster that would be. So initially, he got this hairpiece that he could wear to keep his throat from closing up. And sometimes he wore it for that, and then sometimes later he wore it because the Lord told him to. And for instance, in 1965, when he preached Who is This Melchizedek and Marriage and Divorce, the Lord told him to wear the hairpiece. And I don't have an explanation for that. All I know is that he told us that was so because we all hated it. All of us kids, we just hated it. And when Billy Paul went to pick Dad up, the day that he was preaching Marriage and Divorce, he went in and Dad had the hairpiece on, and Billy Paul made a comment like, "Oh no, you're not going to wear that, are you?" Well, Dad just turned and went back in the bedroom and shut the door. And he was in there for quite a while, and then he came out. And Billy Paul began to apologize. He says, "Daddy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings or anything." And Daddy said, "No." He said, "Paul, wasn't that? You can't hurt Daddy." He said, "But the Lord told me to wear this, and I just wanted to make sure that you hadn't said something that you shouldn't have. That, this is, I just wanted to pray for you." Now, the story behind this is my dad and myself.